The fourth episode of Andor Season 1 is titled Aldhani. In the aftermath of the events on Ferrix, Cassian Andor escapes with Luthen Rael aboard Luthen's ship. As Cassian tends to his injured arm, Luthen informs him that they are headed to the planet Aldhani. Luthen offers Cassian a substantial sum of 200,000 credits to join his rebel organization and participate in a mission to inflict damage upon the Empire. Cassian initially refuses, saying he values his life too much to risk it for a rebellion. However, Luthen insists, claiming that he knows Cassian hates the Empire as much as he does. He offers Cassian a chance to strike a significant blow against the Empire. Eventually, Cassian agrees to help Luthen in his fight against the Empire. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, the capital of the galaxy, the Imperial Security Bureau holds a meeting to discuss the situation on Ferrix. Dedra Meero, a new ISB agent, takes over the case after discovering that the stolen Starpath unit was taken from an Imperial naval base under her supervision. At the same time, Cyril Karn, Sergeant Mosk, and Chief Hein are summoned to ISB headquarters. An ISB lieutenant reprimands them for the loss of 4 lives, including 3 officers. The lieutenant informs them that the Empire has decided to take control of the entire Morlana system as a result of the incident, and then dismisses them. Subsequently, Luthen and Cassian land on the planet Aldhani, where they are greeted by Vel, the leader of the team assigned to the dangerous mission. Vel is initially hesitant to accept Cassian into the group just days before the planned heist, arguing it's too late to include anyone new. Luthen persuades her by emphasizing Cassian's valuable skills as a mercenary. When Vel learns that Luthen is paying Cassian for the mission, she becomes angry. However, Luthen manages to calm her down, reminding her that they are short a man and Cassian can really help them out. Cassian assumes the alias Clem for the mission. Ultimately, Vel agrees, and she and Cassian begin the long journey back to the Rebels' camp. Meanwhile, Luthen leaves on his ship, heading back to Coruscant and disguising himself as he prepares to land. On Aldhani, Cassian joins the Rebel team, which includes Arvel Skeen, Taramin, and Cinta. They start preparing for a daring mission to rob the Imperial garrison on the planet, targeting the quarterly payroll for an entire Imperial sector. The team undergoes training and preparations for the mission, which is set to take place during a rare celestial event called the Eye of Aldhani. Cassian struggles with the idea of committing to the rebellion as he knows that it's a suicide mission, but Vel convinces him that he has no choice but to see it through. On Coruscant, Luthen resumes his public persona as a wealthy antique dealer named Rael Lemex. At his shop, he is visited by Senator Mon Mothma. While Luthen's assistant distracts the senator's driver, Luthen and Mon Mothma retreat to the back of the shop to discuss their secret work against the Empire. Mon Mothma expresses her anxiety about being under constant scrutiny and mentions that the enemy is closing in on her. She reveals that she is trying to recruit another member into their circle. Luthen is alarmed and strongly opposes the idea, arguing that they are already very vulnerable. Mon Mothma insists she understands their vulnerability and warns that if they are caught, she will be the first to fall. Later, Mon Mothma returns home to find her husband, Perrin, preparing the guest list for a dinner he is hosting in honor of a governor. The scene offers a glimpse into the strained relationship between Mon Mothma and Perrin, revealing their marriage to be more of a political arrangement than one of love and affection. Mon Mothma is visibly uncomfortable and on edge when she learns that her husband has invited Imperial figures she does not trust. Meanwhile, Dedra complains to Major Partagaz when Lieutenant Blevin refuses to hand over the raw data files from the Ferrix mission. Blevin asserts that Ferrix falls under his jurisdiction, but Dedra counters that the stolen Starpath unit came from her base, giving her jurisdiction as well. Major Partagaz intervenes, reminding Dedra that Blevin is her senior and oversees 7 zones, whereas she only has 2. He dismisses Dedra's complaint and sends Blevin away. As the episode concludes, Vel and her team are having dinner by a fire with Andor. Lieutenant Gorn, a member of the rebel team, attempts to discuss the plan with Andor, but Andor tells him to let him keep eating. Vel stands up, confronts Andor, and tells him that she expects him to learn everything by morning. She then walks off to take the first watch through the night. This concludes the 4th episode of Andor Season 1. The 5th episode of Andor Season 1 is titled The Axe Forgets. The episode begins with Cyril Karn, the former pre-Moore security officer who had been pursuing Cassian Andor. Cyril is now back at his mother's home, where she chastises him for his failure and lack of future prospects. She mentions calling his uncle, Harlow, to see if he can give Cyril a chance, further emphasizing Cyril's fall from grace. The scene then shifts to the Aldhani moon, where Cassian Andor wakes up to find his belongings scattered about. He confronts Arvel Skeen, one of the members of the crew Cassian has joined for the upcoming heist. Arvel dismisses Cassian's concerns, saying the items were just junk anyway. Arvel's backstory unfolds as well, revealing that his tattoos signify his imprisonment at a place known as Crate's Head. These markings also hint at his connection to an enigmatic group or entity referred to as By the Hand. Cassian, in turn, provides a cover story about coming from a youth center called SIPO. It's clear there is still a lack of trust between Cassian and the rest of the crew. Later, Cassian speaks with another crew member, the young and ideologically driven Karis Nemik, who tries to engage Cassian in a lengthy discussion about the Empire and the Rebellion. Nemik passionately argues that the Empire takes everything, from basic technology to entire worlds, and that the Rebellion is necessary to fight against this oppression. Terramin interrupts before Nemik can fully launch into his philosophical brain. The episode then focuses on the crew's preparations for the upcoming heist. They use wooden blocks to visualize the layout of their target, the Imperial garrison they plan to raid. Vel and Terramin express uncertainty about how to properly calibrate the weight of the freighter they intend to use to escape the garrison. Cassian quickly realizes that the crew lacks the necessary expertise to pilot the ship, and he insists on taking charge of the piloting duties. This leads to a tense exchange, as the other crew members are reluctant to relinquish control. Vel eventually agrees to let Cassian handle the piloting, acknowledging his superior skills. During a practice session where the crew rehearses marching like Imperial soldiers, Cassian offers helpful feedback on where everyone should be positioned based on their dominant hand and weapon locations. The episode also introduces Lieutenant Gorn, an Imperial officer on Aldhani who is secretly one of Vel's rebels. While marching towards the Imperial base, Cassian asks Vel about what an Imperial lieutenant is doing being mixed up with the rebellion. Vel then reveals that Lieutenant Gorn refused a promotion because he fell in love with a local girl. The girl eventually left him, and the lieutenant started developing a hatred for the Imperial authority. Meanwhile, Arvel pulls a knife on Cassian while making the journey to the Imperial base, when they had sat down to take a break and drink water. Arvel cuts off the necklace around his neck that had been given to Cassian by Luthen and questions him about his Kyber crystal necklace and his true identity as Clem. In return, Cassian pulls out his Imperial-issued gun and aims it at Arvel, demanding to have his necklace returned. Before things escalate further, Vel tries to calm everyone down and uses her authority to tell everyone to move along quickly before they are spotted by the Imperial drones flying above them. However, Cassian confesses that he's being paid to work with the rebels. He cites the reason for his confession by saying that he's putting his life on the two and doesn't want to keep looking over his shoulder. When they ask Vel if she knew about this, Vel's head drops in disappointment, and she also confesses that she knew that Cassian was being paid to do this. She defends herself by saying that she had no choice because Luthen had told her to either take him along or the mission would be called off. Cassian, however, calls out Arvel's suspicion as an expression of pre-heist jitters and says that it's normal. As night falls, Vel urges Arvel to approach Cassian in an effort to repair their strained relationship. During their conversation, Arvel opens up to Cassian, revealing that he once had a brother who was killed by the Empire. He explains that an Imperial prefect not only took his brother's life, but also seized his lands, igniting Arvel's deep-seated anger and desire for revenge against the Empire. The episode concludes with the crew's preparations seemingly complete, setting the stage for the upcoming heist. Meanwhile, Luthen anxiously listens to a radio for any updates on the mission, worried not only about the success of the heist, but also the potential fallout if Cassian or Vel are captured and traced back to him. This concludes the 5th episode of Andor Season 1. The 6th episode of Andor Season 1 is titled The Eye. The episode begins with Cassian Andor and the rebel team on Aldhani, poised to execute their daring plan to steal a massive cache of Imperial credits from an outpost. They wait for the ideal moment to strike as the local Dani people gather to witness the natural phenomenon known as the Eye. The Imperials, led by Commandant J-Hold Behaz, view the Dani with disdain, considering them easily manipulated and no real threat. The episode portrays the Imperials as complex, multifaceted characters rather than mere villains. J-Hold's condescension is evident, particularly in his efforts to ingratiate himself with the Colonel, a high-ranking engineer in the Imperial hierarchy who has traveled to Aldhani for an inspection and to witness the Eye, a spectacle he has heard much about. As the episode unfolds, Taramin's past is revealed. He was once a stormtrooper. Andor's expression changes upon learning this, and Skeen mentions how shocked Cinta was when she found out, especially since stormtroopers had killed her entire family. Despite this revelation, Taramin takes charge of coordinating the rebel team's disguises and infiltration of the Imperial base. Vel and Cinta sneak in separately, while Cassian, Taramin, Nemik, and Skeen pose as Imperial soldiers. Lieutenant Gorn assigns them to escort the Aldhani pilgrims, who have come to their sacred valley to celebrate the Eye. He then orders the rest of the Imperial troops under his command to leave and enjoy the event. Before departing, Gorn instructs Corporal Kimsey not to allow anyone to come up without his permission, as Andor and the others successfully make their way into the base by posing as an escort squad for Commandant J-Hold Behaz, Gorn's superior. Once inside, the team takes Commandant Behaz and his family hostage, forcing him to cooperate by threatening their lives. However, things take a turn when one of Behaz's subordinates, Colonel Soden Pedigar, pulls out a gun, points it at Nemik, and demands that they release Behaz's young son. Andor tries to defuse the situation, repeatedly insisting that no one has to die. The Colonel, however, remains unyielding. Before he can act, Cinta and Vel slide down a shaft, and Cinta quickly shoots the Colonel in the head, killing him instantly. Behaz then claims that the vault containing the 80 million credits can only be accessed remotely from the air traffic control center, but Vel sees through his lie. She firmly tells him they already know how the vault works and demands his cooperation, threatening his family's lives if he refuses. She reassures Behaz that, unlike the Imperials, she'll let them all go if he cooperates. Subsequently, the team rushes to the hangar, leaving Cinta behind to watch the hostages. An emotional Vel says goodbye to Cinta, who reassures her that she'll be fine. The team successfully gains access to the vault, but as Nemik tries to communicate with Vel, Corporal Kimsey intercepts their transmission. Unaware that their comms are compromised, the rebels continue with the mission. Kimsey alerts the other Imperials, who quickly begin heading to the vault. Lieutenant Gorn, concerned about the mission's slow progress, also heads to the vault, revealing his true allegiance to the Commandant. Behaz, furious, scowls at Gorn and tells him they'll hang him for this, to which Gorn replies, "7 years working under you? I deserve worse." Chaos ensues as the base descends into madness and the rebels scramble to escape. When Corporal Kimsey and his troops arrive at the vault, Lieutenant Gorn tries to assert his authority, questioning Kimsey's presence and claiming that this is a classified mission. He orders Kimsey to leave, but Kimsey notices that the Commandant is visibly distressed, clutching his heart. Sensing that something is amiss, Kimsey opens fire on the rebels, sparking a fierce firefight between the two sides. In the chaos, both Lieutenant Gorn and Taramin are killed, while Cassian, Vel, Nemik, and Skeen barely manage to reach their getaway ship. During the escape, a massive crate of stolen credits crushes Nemik's legs, leaving him severely injured. Despite the injuries, they manage to escape, narrowly avoiding the TIE fighters deployed to stop them. While Vel believes they shouldn't jeopardize the mission, Cassian and Skeen insist on flying Nemik to a doctor. Once they arrive, Skeen reveals his true intentions, proposing that he and Cassian split the 80 million credits and abandon the rest of the team. He admits that the story about his brother was a lie, and that he was only in it for the money. Unwilling to betray his comrades, Cassian shoots and kills Skeen. Afterward, Cassian enters the doctor's room with his gun drawn on Vel, only to learn that Nemik has tragically succumbed to his injuries. Vel gives Cassian Nemik's manifesto, explaining that Nemik insisted he have it before he died. Cassian then tells Vel that he's taking the credits he was promised and leaving. As Cassian departs, news of the successful heist reaches Coruscant, where Luthen is thrilled. Meanwhile, the Imperials call an urgent council meeting as they prepare to retaliate harshly. This concludes the 6th episode of Andor Season 1.